È stato inaugurato lo scorso sabato un ufficio immigrazione gestito da un gruppo di cittadini originari del Ghana.
Quello internazionale. Facciamo anche servizi per servizi legali, hai dei problemi, infortunio sul lavoro, infortunio a casa, infortunio sulla strada stradale. Abbiamo degli avvocati specializzati in quel settore, qualsiasi cosa, ovviamente. Tutti i servizi che riguardano le persone.
The Court of Cassation has recently sentenced journalist Alessandro Sallusti, the editor of the Berlusconi family newspaper Il Giornale, to 14 months in prison with no parole and the obligation to pay court expenses. Italy's top criminal court has confirmed an earlier sentence that condemned Sallusti for defamation and comments about the abortion of a 13-year-old girl made in 2007. Comments made by a journalist and published in another right-wing newspaper Sallusti edited, Libero, and considered to be defamatory against the probate judge of Turin, Giuseppe Cocilovo.
Reati di diffamazione, ma in questo caso, oltretutto...
The Court of Cassation sentence came as a hard blow to us. Most of the staff room from Il Giornale got very emotional. It doesn't happen very often that a journalist is sentenced to prison and that this journalist is your editor-in-chief.
The Sallusti case has aroused freedom of expression protests from Italian journalists. The crime of defamation in Italy is regulated by Article 595 of the Penal Code, an article that was enacted under fascism almost 90 years ago. Under Article 595, defamation through the press is punishable by 6 months to 3 years imprisonment, or with a fine not inferior to 516 euros. According to recent studies, 850 cases for offences of honour were brought before the Court of Cassation in 2010 only. The National Federation of the Italian Press has for many years tried to have the current anti-defamation law changed. According to Italy's Press Federation, it is unacceptable that a journalist is sentenced to prison for expressing his views.
Noi pensiamo, come sindacato dei giornalisti, che questa sia una sentenza allarmante.
The situation in Italy is alarming. It is vital that the Italian Parliament repeal the provisions of the Penal Code on defamation so as to bring its legislation into compliance with the international legal standards. We suggest that those who breach the code are obliged to immediately correct the defamatory statement, that they are condemned to pay a fine, and for defamation cases of the utmost gravity, they are suspended or removed from the professional journalists' register.
Italian President Giorgio Napolitano and Justice Minister Paola Severino have said they had agreed to amend the country's anti-defamation law in accordance with EU standards. In the meantime, Il Giornale's editor Sallusti has been indicted in a second libel case for defaming a former military prosecutor. The trial is scheduled to commence December the 5th in Milan, hopefully after a reform of the anti-defamation legislation. Max Civili, Press TV, Rome.
A storm swept through Rome on Monday morning, a cold depression which left the street market shoppers searching for shelter. The newspaper headlines told why. Not only was Mario Monti resigning early, but Silvio Berlusconi could be returning.
When I heard this news about Monti, I was desperate because something concrete had finally started to happen with Italian politics, and now it's been brought to a standstill.
Mario Monti replaced Berlusconi a year ago after the Italian 10-year bond yield reached a record of 7.48%. In just 12 months, Mr. Monti's unelected government has stabilised the economy, reduced debt and proposed structural reform, all earning him international praise in the process. These are once again uncertain times in Italian politics, and in a break with the convention, it seems Italy will see out with the new and in with the old for 2013. The resignation of Mario Monti bringing perhaps the resurrection of Silvio Berlusconi. And the markets are genuinely spooked. But Mr. Berlusconi has declared it his duty to contest the upcoming elections and brushed away criticism from EU leaders such as Martin Schulz of the European Parliament.
It is absurd and unacceptable that the President of the European Parliament expresses his opinions on Italian politics, and Mr. Schulz has been badly informed. I think it's hard to find someone more pro-Europe in Italy than me.
In fact, Berlusconi is far from guaranteed to win the upcoming election, but his party could secure enough votes to make life difficult for the eventual winner.
Berlusconi will lose the election, but there is a real risk for Italy that whoever wins will fail to govern the country.
The key word is instability, and that's something neither Italy nor Europe need right now.
Available to lead Italy again, if needed. On Sunday, Italy's former Prime Minister, Mario Monti, announced his plan for the future, 2 days after his resignation.
I'm not joining any specific party, but I would like the parties and the social classes to take on these ideas. These ideas, any other ideas. We need to come up with ideas. I hope that the ideas here, well, not here, but those contained in the manifesto, will be adopted by the vast majority in Parliament, and also that they will bring new energy to the debate for the coming elections.
He will not run directly in the next elections on February 24th, or side openly with any parties, but he said to be ready to lead the country again, on one condition, that the next ruling party or coalition follows a strict plan of reforms set to bring Italy back on the path of economic growth. Monti was forced to resign on Friday, months before the end of his term, after former Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi's party withdrew its support to the government. On Sunday, Monti got back at Berlusconi, saying that sometimes he couldn't follow his reasoning and criticized his pledge to scrap some of the taxes he introduced in the past year.
After the press conference, Mario Monti returned here in the official Prime Minister's residence. Whether he will still live there after the elections will depend on whether the winning coalition will allow him to finish the job he has started.
I don't think that Monti's manifesto will change anything in the Italian state. Politics is quite embarrassing. We see it every day, Berlusconi. Monti has something, perhaps a few things, I don't know, but I don't think his resignation will bring much here or in Europe.
I hope that even if he distances himself, he can continue contributing to the real rebirth of our country, because our country is in a very difficult situation. I hope he can try to do something positive.
Campaigning for the elections will now start officially, but the biggest player in Italian politics for the past year won't join the race. And yet, in the end, he may be called again to lead the country out of the economic crisis.
Silvio Berlusconi has sought to draw a line under his Bunga Bunga parties when he announced he was engaged to his girlfriend 50 years his junior, who makes him feel less lonely. In a wide-ranging interview aired on the talk show Domenica Live on his Canale 5 TV network, the 76-year-old billionaire said he was engaged to Francesca Pascal, his 27-year-old girlfriend. "Finally I feel less lonely," Mr. Berlusconi said. "I am engaged to a Neapolitan. It is official. She is 27 years old, with very solid values, beautiful on the outside and even more beautiful on the inside. She is very close to me, she loves me very much and I feel the same. My daughter Marina appreciates her and loves her very much too." Mr. Berlusconi does not appear to have let his second marriage get in the way of his engagement announcement. He has 5 children from 2 marriages but has yet to reach agreement with Veronica Lario on the terms of their divorce.
Health workers take to the streets of Rome in protest over government plans to cut the number of hospital beds in the capital by 1,000. The proposed reductions are part of a budget plan for 2013, which passed a third vote of confidence in the Senate overnight. Technocrat Prime Minister Mario Monti gave the clearest indication yet that he looks set to stand in Italy's upcoming election. The former economics professor said he would resign once the 2013 budget was in place, but a visit to a Fiat factory carried all the hallmarks of electioneering. Monti is under pressure to stand after bringing a debt crisis which threatened to spiral out of hand under relative control. Monti says he will show his cards over the weekend. The crucial 2013 budget has undergone a number of changes in the Senate and returns to the lower house for approval later today. Parliament will then be dissolved and an election called by President Giorgio Napolitano.
From her side, it's now easier to see why this happened. A huge 30-metre gash ruptured the underside of the Costa Concordia.
This is not happening. This is not happening.
We're not safe until we... That's right. I was going to say we're not safe until we don't hit a rock. Why are they letting us go near it?
They don't know. People might need help to get off.
By this point, some had already leapt into the sea. This group made it onto a rescue boat.
Where are you going?
With 4,000 on board, the search for survivors was only just starting.
Steve! Steve! Kathy!
The cruise ship is just off the tiny island of Giglio, off the Tuscany coast. It was the first night of a 7-day cruise. The scramble to get off was chaotic.
It was dark, people were screaming and children were crying everywhere. It was panic.
It was very, very cold and we were very scared. We saw death in the face.
I said to him, I'm 21 years old. If I'm going to die, you need to tell me now.
25 passengers were British, as were 12 ship workers, many of them entertainers. The Costa Concordia entered service in 2006 and usually cruises the Med in some style. It's a floating village that cost £370 million. On this cruise, passengers heard a loud noise. The lights went out. Initial theories suggest the loss of power meant the crew lost control.
Al ristorante Milano della nave Costa Concordia.
It was pure panic as the ship came back straight for a couple of minutes before tilting again in the opposite direction. I was shocked by the lack of support on the ship, and Costa was giving us the wrong information. They told us it was a simple fault and that we should stay calm and that we needn't wear life vests as it was a simple balancing problem.
A closer look reveals what looks like a section.
Possiamo anticipare.
Unfortunately, the fast tilting of the vessel interrupted the lifeboat evacuation. That's when events started escalating, and the Italian Coast Guard had to intervene. Then the rescue operations were handed over to the authorities.
Members of the crew are now helping the Italian authorities. Explaining what was happening before the crash will be crucial to understanding how this luxury cruise could go so spectacularly wrong. Tom Parmenter, Sky News. Rock wedged.
Mentre lei, signor Presidente del Consiglio, latitante che non c'è, che non viene in Parlamento, ma va soltanto a raccontare stavo dicendo una parolaccia, le bugie sui giornali, ci sono persone che non arrivano a fine mese che si stanno suicidando. Lei ce li ha sulla coscienza questi suicidi, perché lei sta stabilando 2 pesi.
Un milionario freddo.
Agüero.